I want to talk a little bit about what needs to be next for Oklahoma at the offensive coordinator position. For those of you living underneath that particular rock, Seth Luttrell was relieved of his duties on Sunday by Brent Venables, and Joe John Finley has been elevated to play caller, and Kevin Johns has been elevated to quarterbacks coach. Whether or not this is going to help Jackson Arnold or Michael Hawkins Jr., we don't know. I know one thing, it's not going to help Oklahoma get healthy, and that's been a lot of the problem, along with what we have seen from an anemic offense, right? The offense already didn't feel great when we were fully healthy, or as healthy as Oklahoma was going to be at the start of the season, because you've had injuries to the offensive line, had injuries at the wide receiver positions, and since then those things have only gotten worse, while the offense has also regressed. The Sooners rank 128th in total offense in the sport. That's unsustainable. That makes Oklahoma Iowa, and it's not a great look for a program that wanted to get off to a really great start in the SEC. Perhaps not achieve the number one ranking like Texas, but certainly be in the mix like a Texas A&M, a Missouri, or even an Ole Miss at this point. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like Oklahoma's only sliding, and it could get worse before it gets better. Now that the move has been made, I don't expect a whole lot to change with how the offense is run, because Joe John Finley helped create this offense. He's also tight ends coach. I also think that there's something to be said about an offensive coordinator who was a fullback at Oklahoma and an offensive coordinator who was my father's favorite tight end at Oklahoma. Not necessarily what we think of as pedigree when we're talking about backgrounds for offensive coordinators and offensive-minded folks. The other thing that I think is important to note here is that the names that are being bandied about right now, very early, aren't exactly big time or even home run hires. Good offensive coordinators like Joe Craddock, right? Mike Shanahan. Brennan Marion is apparently the leader in the clubhouse by many Sooners fans because of the go-go offense. I went to school with Brennan at TU. Brennan was an outstanding wide receiver, just suffered too many injuries. That dude had first-round talent, right? And since then, he and G.J. Kinney have really made hay as play callers, and G.J. being a head coach at Texas State here, really great underneath Gus Malzahn for a little while there, while Brennan went to Howard and then went to Pitt, where I think people forgot he's the guy that created Jordan Addison, right, with Mark Whipple, into the kind of dude that could help those two, he and Kenny Pickett, lead Pittsburgh to a win against Michigan State in a New Year's Six Bowl. Outstanding season for them. He also was up for a number of other jobs that just didn't go his way, ends up going to UNLV, where he could be the offensive coordinator after a brief stop at Texas. I know that he was considered for the TU job before Kevin Wilson was hired, and I think that that would have been a great fit, honestly. The go-go offense is also really fun. The way that Brennan wants to run this ball and the way that he's trying to get one-on-ones for his guys really isolates one guy like a Ricky White or even a Jordan Addison who can go make plays for you. This year, that would have been a Deion Burke, right? That's an easy sell. The thing that I am looking for, though, is for Oklahoma to hold its water. I realize that we all want the next guy, right? We want to know, is Zach Kittley the dude? We want to know who might come available, right? And then what their interest is and how they're going to fit into what Brent Venables is doing, because now you need to pair an offense with that is dedicated to the defense, right? In recent years, it's felt like Oklahoma's tried to dedicate the defense to the offense. It's very rare that we have seen an Oklahoma team that has been balanced on both sides, because it's really difficult to do, right? It's hard to create an offense that's as good as your defense. If you're, say, Ohio State or Georgia this year, maybe you're getting closer to that. Oregon, you're getting closer to that, where you are just as lethal on both sides. Usually one unit is just superior to the other, and complementary football needs to be played by the weaker link of the three phases, right? So if you're really good at special teams, you're probably just Virginia Tech in 1999, right? I think I'm looking for creativity. I'm going to throw some names at you that I do not expect to be up for this job, but I do want you to consider the philosophy that they have in play calling and the designs that they use in play calling before you start yelling. I really like what I've seen from Kyle Shanahan's offense, Mike McDaniel's offense, which is from Kyle Shanahan's offense, and Ben Johnson at Detroit. One of the reasons I like this, Joe Brady at Buffalo, they are creative in how they are getting playmakers the ball, and they're using misdirection to create matchups that are favorable that don't necessarily depend on one or two players that are going to be great, specifically at quarterback. This is a sport where if you have a great quarterback, he can cure a lot of your problems. Like, he can really fix it on the fly because the talent disparity is still so large in college football. But what if you had an offense that wasn't necessarily built around what the quarterback could do or what a running back could do or what a wide receiver could do, but what each one of these guys can contribute that is going to keep the defense off balance? That's what I would like to see Brent Venables take a look at, because I know that they're going to field an outstanding defense at Oklahoma with Brent Venables as head coach. I think Zach Alley is very, very close to putting together a really great defensive unit capable of putting himself into the Broyles Award conversation, maybe 2025, 2026, and then he'll be a head coach. But right now, I don't know that there's a guy out there that I would say Oklahoma go get him in the way that I said Oklahoma go get Brent Venables when Lincoln Riley left for USC. That said, that guy could become available, right? I know there are people that like Joey Hazel, who was backup quarterback at Oklahoma, offense coordinator at Tennessee, right? I still think that's Josh Heupel's offense. And when you talk about Charlie Weiss Jr., you're talking about Lane Kiffin's offense. He's the guy, right? I understand that you're thinking you're going to hire a guy like, say, Jeff Lebby was at Baylor to be your guy. But I'm not sure that the veer and shoot or tempo offenses are what is needed at a place like Oklahoma. And certainly we're beginning to figure out those offenses in the way that we were able to figure out RPO schemes and the way that people were able to figure out the air raid, right? Think about Tennessee, for instance. Tennessee made hay early in Josh Heupel's era, really throwing the football downfield, right? They get one-on-ones, they get two-on-ones. They were going fast, catching you out of alignment. Now, people are up on that. They're able to keep up, and they're giving the appearance of light boxes and asking Tennessee to run the football. The great thing for Tennessee so far this season is that Dylan Sampson has been able to do that and win his one-on-one battles. Players, not plays. But when you can disguise a light box and then drop down a safety or bring in an edge guy, and you can still get over the top of what was already a pretty outstanding wide receiver unit with a quarterback who's still figuring out what he sees, you can stop Tennessee from scoring. And that's what we have seen, right? They have not been able to score at the rate that they were even able to score earlier this year or last year or the year before that when they had Hendon Hooker and healthy. I'm not sold right now on anybody that has been put on a hot board or anybody that is really calling plays right now that you could go get, right? If you could go get Todd Monken at Baltimore, would you? I don't know, right? That's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to really give some thought to what is it that Oklahoma does well on defense and what kind of an offense would you pair with that? And I got to tell you, man, I want to see misdirection. I want to see creativity. I want to see an offensive coordinator who is devastating in attacking the weakest parts of every defense they face and doesn't really run a system so much as he has a number of tools in the bag that he can use to help Oklahoma win its first national championship since 2000. And my goodness, I'm 37, dog. I would like to win one before I get up out of here, honestly, so bear with me, okay? I know that you want an offensive coordinator. Hell, I want an offensive coordinator, but make sure it's the right guy, right? Let's use some caveat emptor here. It's Latin for buyer beware. Let's on the buyer to know the property, right? We got to know what we're getting here. So let's hold up. Let's see how they finish the season, and then let's see who's available.